We need to get them back where they came from.
Hulk reminds us there that these stones have got to go back to the past.
To play the shitty games that suck ass.
Ragnarok completely upended Bruce and Hulk's characters. One became a selfish jerk, the other a spastic weirdo. Do Infinity War and Endgame course correct? If so, is it enough to repair the damage? Let's find out. Infinity War begins with Thanos' attack on the evacuation ship from the end of Ragnarok. He kills half the passengers, and threatens to execute Thor unless Loki hands over the Tesseract. Loki appears to do so when Hulk barges in to fight Thanos.
Where was Hulk just before the film starts when Thanos and his children are destroying the Asgardian ship?
In the bathroom.
You gotta go, you gotta go.
He's Hulk, it takes a while. There's also a plan on their part. You know, I think they were getting Thanos into position and then giving him the best chance to...
Why would letting Thanos slaughter everyone be part of their plan? What benefit do they gain by waiting? If Hulk attacks immediately, that allows more people to escape. And if he defeats Thanos, he's saved a lot of lives. Besides, Hulk doesn't seem like the planning type. The last movie stressed how his emotions get the better of him, causing him to lash out even at his friends, without regard to strategy or skill. And when would they have devised this plan? Thanos' attack seems sudden and unexpected. I think the Russo's explanation is more reasonable.
He was fighting in other parts of the ship. It's very large.
Although, it's weird that Hulk is able to get the jump on Thanos. He's not a very subtle guy. Shouldn't we hear his footsteps leading up to his attack?
We have a Hulk.
Feels like a cheat to set up a cool moment.
Is it for dramatic effect that you need to?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, it's absolutely for dramatic effect.
Hulk fights Thanos. At first, he dominates, but Thanos turns the tide and defeats Hulk. And he does so without using the Power Stone.
Was Thanos only able to beat Hulk because he had the Power Stone, or is he just that powerful?
I would say that he's just that powerful. I mean, you didn't see him actively use the Power Stone in the fight. Hulk is obviously very powerful, but he's a little mindless in his fighting style. Thanos is a very skilled fighter, equally as strong. So when you put those two up against each other, the more skilled fighter is going to win. But ultimately, Thanos is smarter.
The early establishment of just how fearsome Thanos is, he's got one stone here, but I don't think he's using it.
He's not using it.
Right.
This is to show that Thanos is unbeatable in one-on-one battle. He's much more polished fighter than the Hulk, and he dismantles the Hulk fairly quickly.
I'm not sure this logic checks out. Despite what the movie tells you, Hulk isn't a mindless fighter, and I'm not referring to his training during Ragnarok. I'm talking about how Hulk was initially characterized in The Incredible Hulk. The movie has several moments where Hulk cleverly uses his environment to overcome opponents seemingly stronger than himself, Abomination being a pertinent example. Before his transformation, Emil Blonsky was described as an exceptional soldier.
And I pulled you an ace. Emil Blonsky, on loan to SOCOM from the Royal Marines.
And after his mutation, he was shown to be stronger than Hulk.
We had to create a character that was dominant to Hulk in almost every way.
Present them with a real enemy, somebody that was as strong, maybe a little stronger, as smart, maybe much smarter.
Yet Hulk was able to beat him. Why? Well, during their fight, while Abomination was manhandling him, Hulk realized Betty was in imminent danger. This motivation gave Hulk the strength to overpower Abomination. Hulk gains strength when the people he cares about are in danger. So, during his fight with Thanos, Hulk should have been able to fight a lot smarter. And on top of that, the threat of his friend Thor getting killed should have helped him become stronger. Neither occur, likely due to his recent characterization in Ragnarok. There, he was made dumb and selfish. I also want to compare the intensity of these fights. Hulk basically gives up after receiving a series of quick, precise blows from Thanos. In the Harlem fight, Abomination was destroying Hulk. He had him up against the wall with a nasty stab wound above his heart. Yet Hulk refused to give up, and eventually prevailed. The Thanos fight seems like a continuation of Hulk's nerfing from Ragnarok. The plot needs Thanos to win, so he does. Hulk's strength is sacrificed for his character introduction.
We want to announce Thanos as the biggest villain in the MCU by defeating Hulk relatively savagely and easily. There's a sense of dread over the course of the rest of the movie for anyone who'll come up against him.
We're starting to stray towards the Worf effect. Hulk is sent to Earth by Heimdall. He crashes through the roof of the Sanctum Sanctorum and transforms back into Bruce. Wait, so Bruce is back? In Ragnarok, they stressed that
if I turn into the Hulk, I am never gonna come back again.
So either Hulk has, for some reason, allowed Bruce to re-emerge, or Bruce's worries were unfounded. I'm inclined to doubt the latter. Bruce was stuck as Hulk for 2 years straight. He didn't have the power to reassert himself during that entire time. Why would he be able to do so after hardly a day since Hulk retook control? This therefore means Hulk chose to let Bruce have control again. Why? We'll get to that in a bit. Bruce warns Tony about Thanos.
Thanos. He's a plague, Tony. He invades planets, he takes what he wants, he wipes out half the population. The attack on New York, that's him.
Later, he adds,
Thanos has the biggest army in the universe.
How does Bruce know all this? Thanos or his followers might have introduced themselves and explained all this at the start, but neither Hulk nor Bruce was there for that. Perhaps Hulk learned all about Thanos on Sakaar? If so, that's something we needed to be told. Could Thor have explained this to Hulk? If we assume Thor somehow knew all this, I can't see when he could have told Hulk about it, or even why he'd bothered to do so. They didn't know Thanos was about to attack, and Thor didn't seem interested in continuing his Infinity Stone search from the start of Ragnarok, so he had no reason to broach the topic. And there's another issue concerning Bruce's knowledge. The moment he reemerges, he says,
Thanos is coming. He's coming.
Somehow Bruce possesses Hulk's immediate memories. This is new. Bruce has always been shown to get the occasional fragments of Hulk's memories, nothing more. In Ragnarok, Hulk somehow gained greater access to Bruce's memories, allowing him to understand concepts like the Earth and the Avengers. But Bruce didn't receive the same. Despite Hulk accumulating 2 years of memories, Bruce recalled none of it clearly, being restricted to vague impressions. Which is why he immediately asked about the last thing he experienced as Bruce.
Where are we? Well, how's Ned?
Not as good.
Is he okay? And what about Sokovia?
And why he knew nothing about Hulk's actions.
What are you saying? I've been Hulk for 2 years?
So how could Bruce have clear memories of Thanos' attack? Does he suddenly have greater access to Hulk's memories? There's no explanation. For the most part, Bruce acts in character for this scene. He's concerned about Thanos' genocidal goals, encouraging Tony to put aside his beef with Cap for the sake of the universe.
Thor's gone. Thanos is coming. It doesn't matter who you're talking to or not.
And as chaos breaks out in the street, his instinct is to help civilians. However, Bruce still acts overly comedic during serious moments.
Tony, you lost another Superbot?
The Avengers broke up. We're toast.
Broke up? Like a band? Like the Beatles?
Ha ha ha.
But overall, it's toned down significantly from Ragnarok. Outside, they confront Cull Obsidian and Ma Bane. Bruce tries to Hulk out, but it fails.
Either I can't or he won't.
Hulk refuses to come out. Many thought this was because Hulk was afraid of Thanos after losing to him in a fight. The idea is that Hulk has never lost before, so the experience has left him fearful. This doesn't work. This isn't the first time Hulk has lost a fight. He got knocked out by Veronica during Age of Ultron, and while Hulk eventually won the fight against Abomination, that battle was much more physically brutal. He got tossed around like a chump and nearly stabbed in the heart. Even Veronica managed to knock out a tooth. By comparison, his fight with Thanos is downright tame. And Hulk has never feared his opponent's power. Despite getting wrecked by Abomination, Hulk still persevered. Despite Thor suddenly gaining incredible lightning powers, Hulk was still determined to fight. Even when outgunned, Hulk doesn't back down. So why does Hulk refuse to come out? Does Mark know? He's been playing this character for years, so he must have a good grasp of his motivations, right?
Tell me where everything stands with Hulk.
Hulk goes
Bye-bye.
off and we don't know where he's going or why he's going or if he's going on his own volition or... You know, Hulk's tricky that way.
Yeah.
You don't really know what he's thinking.
Yes, never.
Why is he so angry all the time?
Yeah.
Mark continues to prove that he knows nothing. Is it a lack of investment? Maybe he just doesn't care anymore. Anyway, throughout Infinity War and even Endgame, the reason behind Hulk's refusal to emerge is never given. Multiple times Bruce tries to Hulk out. All he gets in reply is,
No.
The problem is, this gives the audience no clue as to Hulk's reasoning. Infinity War ends with the promise that we'll get an answer eventually.
Hulk, we got a lot to figure out, pal.
Does Endgame give us this answer?
I'm so confused.
Nope.
To find out, we have to turn to outside sources.
People have speculated whether there was some fear on the Hulk's part about having to face Thanos again, but I think ultimately what it is that he's tired of playing hero to Bruce Banner. Hulk refuses to help Banner because he believes that Banner only uses the Hulk to solve problems. Hulk, I think, is starting to perceive himself as who should control the host body because he doesn't feel like Banner brings an awful lot to the table.
Over the course of the movie, the whole story is Banner can't get along with the Hulk. Hulk won't come out. He's sick of, being Banner's errand boy.
Yeah, none of that is in the movie. It isn't even hinted at. However, there is a deleted scene where this arc is made explicit.
If you're gonna appear at any moment, now would be a hell of a good time.
No! Banner only want Hulk for fighting!
Without this scene, it's no wonder people were confused. Also, this doesn't even make sense. If Hulk thinks Bruce just uses him, why not take permanent control again? He can put himself in a position where he gets to make all the decisions. He can decide when and if he fights. And if Hulk thinks he should control the host body, why did he relinquish control in the first place? On top of all that, are you really telling me Hulk is willing to let his friends die to make a point to Bruce? Really? To put things into perspective, if Hulk was present during the fight in New York, there's a good chance Doctor Strange isn't captured, and Thanos is greatly delayed in getting the Time Stone. Everything changes, and they might not lose. Hulk is culpable for Thanos' victory.
The Hulk is in a very interesting place. He and Banner have been at odds over who controls the host body since we first met Bruce Banner.
Not really. The conflict centered around Bruce's unwillingness to embrace the Hulk, overcoming that and thus learning to control this great power. It was Ragnarok that reframed their dynamic as a struggle over a host body. This is a very new development.
The two of us have been fighting over this host body for years, and we lost because we were fighting. It was selfish of us to fight over the host body. Banner sat around and thought about the fact that two characters were fighting over one host body in a very selfish way, and they could not participate or contribute in a healthy way to the fight against Thanos.
I disagree. Hulk is the only one at fault here. Bruce did everything right. They weren't fighting over the host body. On the contrary, Bruce was desperately trying to give Hulk control, but Hulk refused because he's a petty asshole. Bruce is being decidedly selfless in this situation.
Banner had this very unique experience where in the opening of Infinity War, he loses to Thanos as Hulk. Later in the film, he loses to Thanos as Banner. And so he is left with this reality that neither version of himself could stop Thanos.
But those two losses aren't the same. Bruce did everything he possibly could to stop Thanos. Hulk lost one fight, then gave up. Overall, how do the Russos tackle Bruce's character?
What is it like directing when these characters have sort of different voices sometimes, and then they're all coming together in this one place?
We interpret those characters the way that we want to interpret them, and I think that the audience appreciates that.
No, please, not again. Why not just write the characters consistently? You're making a movie, not deciphering modern art. Enough with the interpretations. Like in Ragnarok, Bruce has made the anus of several jokes.
Why didn't you just reprogram the synapses to work collectively?
Because we didn't think of it?
I'm sure you did your best.
Oh, this is amazing, man! It's like being the Hulk, not actually.
No!
Oh, screw you, you big green asshole!
I find this trend frustrating. Why do we need to sacrifice Bruce's character for the sake of comedy? Can't we have humor without fucking around with the character's personality or destroying his dignity?
I am Groot!
I am Steve Rogers.
Jokes in character. Steve's earnestness will lead to something.
He's very legitimately confused there.
Yes, as one would be.
Yes, like that. Is that too much to ask for? Aside from this annoying trend, Bruce is mostly characterized how he used to be. He is concerned with helping his friends and the innocent. When Tony and Doctor Strange go off into space, Bruce calls Cap for help, just as he urged Tony to do. When discussing what to do with the Mind Stone in Vision's head, Bruce is the one that argues they could remove it without sacrificing Vision.
If we take out the stone, there's still a whole lot of Vision left, perhaps the best parts.
And in Wakanda, he uses Veronica to fight against Thanos' army. As far as Bruce's arc goes, it seems to revolve around his value as an Avenger separate from Hulk.
This is an arc that makes Banner a hero and not just someone who whines for the Hulk's help all the time. Banner has to step up and solve the problem on his own.
A cut line makes this arc more explicit.
I don't hate you. You're more of an Avenger than I am.
This is a follow-up to Ragnarok, which retconned in this insecurity of Bruce's.
Banner's powerful and useful too.
Is he though?
Okay, how many PhDs does Hulk have? 0. How many PhDs does Banner have? 7.
In The Incredible Hulk, The Avengers, and Age of Ultron, the thing Bruce wanted most was a normal life, to settle down and have a family. Being robbed of that desire, he dedicated himself to helping others.
I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people.
He joined the Avengers and used his skills as a scientist to continue pursuing this goal. And Bruce seemed content with this. In fact, he became reluctant to use Hulk.
Just wasn't expecting the code green.
And Tony used this reluctance to convince him to create Ultron.
What if you were sipping margaritas on a sun-drenched beach, turning brown instead of green? Not looking over your shoulder for Veronica.
So Bruce's arc in Infinity War only works if you consider Ragnarok and ignore everything that came before. So much for getting this character back on track. I get the impression that this arc, and Hulk's motivations, were devised to get Hulk out of the movie. I don't think the writers knew what to do with him.
We're writing this while they haven't shot Ragnarok yet. So we're trying to plot out a movie, and then you find out, you go see Ragnarok and go, hey, they did everything we were going to do with Hulk.
And I think the limited available screen time for the character likely contributed to this dilemma.
How do you pack so many superhero names into one movie without spoiling their individual talents?
Oh, I don't know. We may have spoiled their individual talents.
I criticized Ragnarok for arbitrarily changing the rules of the Hulk. Suddenly, anger played no role in determining who was in control. Yet the movie didn't explain what the new rules were or why things were different.
He basically ends up in a whole other dimension on a planet called Sakaar. And because of the physics of this planet, Banner and Hulk separate out from each other. And so you have a Hulk that only doesn't exist when he's angry.
What are you talking about? Did Mark just make this shit up? Because that explanation is nowhere in Ragnarok. In Infinity War, we actually get more unjustified shifts in the Hulk's mechanics. Bruce and Hulk are now able to verbally communicate using partial transformations. This is even more baffling than the changes in Ragnarok. That movie at least had a 2-year gap where changes might have occurred. Infinity War picks up right where Ragnarok left off, so there's no wiggle room to imply any development. And these sorts of fluid transitions between the two have usually been reserved for when Bruce and Hulk are on good terms. When Bruce resists Hulk, his transformations are depicted as a painful struggle. Bruce's unwillingness to change is represented visually. When Bruce embraces Hulk, his transformations are depicted as fluid and easy. You can't tell when Bruce ends and Hulk begins. Visually, these moments are sending mixed signals. On top of that, we've never seen this sort of communication between the two. Somehow, Hulk is able to hear and respond to Bruce while not being the one in control. It's like he's sitting in the back of Bruce's mind, observing everything that's happening. This has never been how it works. Again, this is another way that Infinity War compounds on the mistakes of Ragnarok. The movie ends before Bruce and Hulk can resolve their issues, leaving Endgame to pick up this thread. After a 5-year time skip, we get this scene.
For years, I've been treating the Hulk like he's some kind of disease, something to get rid of. But then I start looking at him as the cure. 18 months in the gamma lab. I put the brains and the brawn together.
What? Are you telling me they had this monumental character development? Off screen.
Vincent, I'm on the intercom.
We could use the 5 years as the transition, right? Like you hint that he's got problems coalescing, and in the 5 years he figures it out. You have a couple of lines about gamma radiation, and he's eating pancakes, and off we go.
Well, it's also like, you get it. Part of the thing we learn every time you write a movie, and particularly a movie where it is on a continuing storyline, is you don't have to explain as much as you think you have to.
Sure, if you're looking at this as just exposition, but this is also radical character growth. What made you think doing that off-screen would be at all satisfying? The audience has watched all this conflict build up, yet they never get to see the resolution. Originally, the transformation into Smart Hulk occurred at the end of Infinity War.
Better only want Hulk for fighting.
So what? You like to fight.
Better hate Hulk.
I don't hate you. I love you.
No, you don't. Hulk just want to live.
I want to live too, man. I want to live too.
Me too.
So let's live. We'll live and let live.
Live and let live. We worked it out.
It's a crucial sequence for Bruce and Hulk's characters.
Are there any key scenes that were deleted, or you know what I mean?
Maybe there's 10 minutes of footage, but nothing key. Otherwise, it would have stayed in the movie.
Liar!
So why was this cut?
The movie could not handle this weird success. The movie needed to just stay in a succession of losses in the third act.
Cutting that out was a decision made during the editing process on Infinity War, by which point we had already shot Endgame.
We've shown it to a few test audiences, and none of them would accept it. I think it was happening too quickly.
That's it. Because we were in the climax of the movie, I think we had enough space to really tell that story.
We did not have it.
For the sake of Infinity War's third act, this meaningful Hulk moment was cut. This is Age of Ultron all over again.
We had a very different scene with the Hulk and Ultron, and it did not play. It was good, but it didn't fit. So I wrote this scene and the scene between the two of them that comes after, and we did it in reshoots.
So they were forced to do the creation of Smart Hulk off screen. Fine. Except the arc that leads to this transformation, say it with me, doesn't even make sense.
Better hate Hulk.
I don't hate you. You're more of an Avenger than I am. I love you.
Bruce says he loves Hulk. At this point in their journey, I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. If this was Bruce from the Avengers, I would know it was an expression of self-acceptance. At the time, Hulk and Bruce were implied to be the same person.
But then it's still you inside it.
No, it's not.
I don't know. In the cave, I really felt like it knew me.
Now though, given that Hulk is his own unique person, I can't imagine Bruce feeling any compassion towards him. Ragnarok made Hulk a childish, selfish prick that stole 2 years of Bruce's life. He should have nothing but contempt for him.
Hulk just want to live.
I want to live too, man.
Me too.
So let's live. We'll live and let live.
Live and let live.
Yes.
Yes.
Bruce then says they should live and let live. The phrase is used to say that a person should live as he or she chooses and let other people do the same. How is that at all relevant to their situation? Their dilemma is that they can't live and let live. The fact that they share a host body explicitly prevents them from doing so. And this expression somehow translates to Hulk giving Bruce his power so he can fight off Cull Obsidian, because I guess that's something he could just do now. I'm not sure what's going on from Hulk's perspective. He refuses to come out because he doesn't just want to be used by Bruce to solve problems. Bruce says to live and let live, and that inspires him to give Bruce his power to solve his problem. How is this meaningfully different than what he was trying to avoid? Unless the subsequent transformation isn't meant to be Hulk giving Bruce his power, but Bruce and Hulk merging? We'll touch on that in a bit. Basically, I think it's a good thing this confused scene was axed. But what is the official explanation for this character development?
For years, I've been treating the Hulk like he's some kind of disease, something to get rid of. But then I start looking at him as the cure.
This sounds an awful lot like Bruce's arc in The Incredible Hulk. He thought of Hulk as nothing more than a monster, a dangerous condition he needed to be rid of. But by the end of the movie, he realized Hulk could be a force for good, something to be controlled and used to help people. The Avengers expanded upon this development. Bruce learned to trust in and rely on Hulk even more, and it solidified how much he'd learned to embrace Hulk. It wasn't until Age of Ultron that much of this development was undone. And then Ragnarok went in a completely different direction. Even so, Bruce hasn't been trying to get rid of Hulk since he was Edward Norton. What is Smart Hulk talking about? As for the mechanical reason behind Smart Hulk's creation,
18 months in the gamma lab. I put the brains and the brawn together.
That's so vague.
It just might work.
I guess this is the most we could have hoped for. At this point, the mechanics of Hulk have changed so much that the original explanation by Stearns isn't really relevant anymore. And I guess the writers didn't want to expend the effort coming up with something that would make sense when applied to every Hulk appearance. Instead, they chose the lazy way out.
So a lot of questions, like why doesn't he turn into the Hulk when he's angry? Why can the Hulk stay the Hulk when he's not angry? That all starts to get answered as we move along.
So that was a fucking lie.
Now I think it's time to tackle who Smart Hulk is exactly.
At some point, Banner decides, well, what if we put the hate aside and we try to resolve this in a way that is holistic, and he merges the two of them.
We should give credit to, Mark Ruffalo. He worked so hard figuring this character out because, he's been playing Banner, he's been playing Hulk, but sort of figuring out who the combination of them is a real journey for him.
What's fun about Smart Hulk is that he has Hulk's aggression. Banner is different. He's not as sort of pensive and
Combination of the two.
Despite the Russos' insistence that Smart Hulk is some merging of the two, his personality isn't meaningfully different from Bruce's. The Russos claim Smart Hulk is more confident than Bruce.
And I think to see how good of an actor Mark Ruffalo is, watch that scene where he plays Banner, is very different than who Smart Hulk is. And the confidence dissipates.
Bruce has always been a confident character, particularly in the Avengers. After gaining control of the Hulk, he's able to conduct himself in a much more self-assured manner.
Stop lying to me! I'm sorry, that was mean. I just wanted to see what you do.
Even in Age of Ultron, despite the backtracking, he still retained some of this confidence.
I know you're angry.
No, we're way past that. I could choke the life out of you and never change a shade.
Ragnarok is an outlier.
You don't care about me. You're not my friend.
The writers claim that Smart Hulk has a bigger ego.
Writing for Smart Hulk versus slower, dumber Hulk.
Largely, we wrote him like Banner, but with a bigger ego. Becoming Smart Hulk fixed Banner's inferiority complex, and so now he just thinks he's awesome.
An inferiority complex? None of the movies before Ragnarok depict Bruce with that trait. If you recall, the Incredible Hulk went so far as to hint that he was overly prideful, and that this led to the creation of the Hulk.
But he was so sure of what he was onto that he tested it on himself.
A deleted scene expanded on this further.
I just keep asking myself what it was we were trying to accomplish that was worth all this.
We wanted to advance things a little.
I think those were things that we told ourselves because we liked the way they sounded.
Nobody thought something like that was possible.
Nature takes a long time to build us the way that we are. Refined over billions and billions of years, and nobody understood that better than you and me. And so we did what? We come in here with these big brains of ours, and we think that we're gonna do what? Improve it overnight? And then we act surprised when it blows up in our face in some way that we didn't expect.
Again, this inferiority is something unique to Ragnarok. It isn't that Bruce loses confidence in that movie, but that his entire personality has changed, so it's difficult to account for it when tracking his character. Suffice it to say, Smart Hulk's ego and confidence don't distinguish him from Bruce at all. What this means is, Smart Hulk is simply Bruce with Hulk's body. After their failure to stop Thanos, Bruce went into a lab and figured out a way to give himself Hulk's body. It's like he said.
I put the brains and the brawn together.
In a proof-of-concept scene, Smart Hulk is working on figuring out time travel. He gets frustrated, and the Hulk personality emerges, causing him to trash the room.
We're gonna send you out for about 10 minutes and pull you back in a few seconds. I hope it works. I'll drop you out there. 1768. Come on, Tony. You never trust me. You always think that I'm gonna mess things up. No.
System overload.
No!
System.
This is bull! It never works!
This actually reinforces the idea that Smart Hulk is Bruce with Hulk's body. It's only when he experiences extreme emotion does the Hulk personality come through. This is precisely what it used to be. The only difference is that this is a purely mental shift, rather than a mental and physical shift. The difference between this proof of concept and what we actually got in the movie is that Bruce never shifts to the Hulk personality, even when he experiences extreme emotion, such as his grief at Natasha's death. This raises the question, where is the Hulk personality? Is he dead? We never see him. He's gone, and no one questions where he went. I think the scene with the Ancient One was a missed opportunity to clarify this. You see, after hopping back to the year 2012, Smart Hulk goes to the New York Sanctum in search of the Time Stone. When he tries to take it from the Ancient One, she baps his astral form out of his body. What's strange is that Smart Hulk's astral form is depicted as normal Bruce. The directors even talk about it as specifically being the Bruce Banner personality, not the Smart Hulk personality.
And I think to see how good of an actor Mark Ruffalo is, watch that scene where he plays Banner, is very different than who Smart Hulk is. And the confidence dissipates.
But that doesn't make sense. If Smart Hulk is the result of the merging of the two, why wouldn't his astral form reflect that? The way I see it, there were 3 options they could have ran with to cement the idea that Smart Hulk is a combination of Bruce and Hulk. Option 1. The astral form that leaves Smart Hulk's body is visually identical to Smart Hulk. This shows that Bruce and Hulk have united as one entity, both inside and out. Option 2. Bruce gets bopped out of the body, yet Hulk continues to move and speak, because now the Hulk personality is all that remains. The Ancient One has accidentally separated them from their union. Option 3. Pretty much the same as Option 2, except both Bruce and Hulk are thrown from the body as separate astral forms. Any of these would have helped solidify who exactly Smart Hulk is. What we got only creates more room for confusion. Let's look at Smart Hulk's arc. What has he been up to during the 5-year time skip in Endgame? Well, during the diner scene, some kids ask for a picture.
Excuse me, Mr. Hulk?
Yes.
Can we get a photo?
100%, little person.
This implies that he's become well known, likely for helping people. The kids wouldn't recognize him if he weren't famous, and I can't imagine him dedicating himself to anything other than helping people, just as he always has.
She's an evil being.
I don't care what she is. I'm not fighting any more beings. I'm sick of it.
Just as he mostly always has. And a deleted scene of Smart Hulk saving people from a burning building proves this.
We had a scene showing you that Hulk is now a superhero. So it was a scene prior to the diner where he's actually saving people from a burning building. This guy people used to view as a monster is now the last remaining superhero. And it was fun, but it didn't give you anything that diner didn't give you. It just was extraneous and it felt like noise. You get almost everything by Scott Lang going, I don't understand, or I'm so confused.
Yeah.
And then you're off to the races and it all makes sense.
While a whole scene isn't strictly necessary, I wish that there was some explicit confirmation about what he's been doing these past 5 years. I don't think many recognize this implication even with multiple viewings. This development is great and is back in line with Bruce's characterization prior to Ragnarok. It's almost enough to make me forgive Hulk dabbing.
Hulk out!
Bruce.
Damn.
Almost. Endgame as a whole has a lot more focus on Smart Hulk being empathetic and wanting to help people. One example is when he and Rocket go to recruit Thor in New Asgard.
Kind of a step down from the Golden Palaces.
Hey, have a little compassion, pal. First they lost Asgard, then half the people. They're probably just happy to have a home.
This line almost feels like redemption for this moment in Ragnarok.
Thought it'd be a lot nicer. I mean, not that it's not nice, it's just, it's on fire.
Funniest thing I've seen in ages.
Smart Hulk sees the absolute state Thor is in and wants to help.
I get it. You're in a rough spot, okay? I've been there myself. And you want to know who helped me out of it?
Natasha.
It was you. You helped me.
When did Thor help him out of a rough spot? He could only be talking about Ragnarok, but Thor didn't help him at all with his identity crisis in that. In fact, he actively encouraged Bruce to Hulk out, despite the possibility of Bruce being lost forever.
If I turn into the Hulk, I am never gonna come back again. No. And you don't care.
No. I'm putting together the team. The Hulk is the fire.
I guess he helped Bruce get off Sakaar and back to Earth? But it doesn't sound like that's what Hulk's referring to. Another instance of Smart Hulk's desire to help others is his conversation with the Ancient One. It's discovered that the Infinity Stones must be returned to their realities the moment they were taken, otherwise some bad shit will happen. Like Loki.
I'm counting on you, Bruce. We all are.
This line is a large motivator for Hulk moving forward.
If you take that stone out, it's going to create a branched reality in which everyone on Earth is going to die, but the Hulk has a moral responsibility to bring the stone back to this exact moment to ensure that that doesn't happen.
He feels responsible for countless lives, including the ones they seek to bring back with the stones. For those lives, Smart Hulk is willing to sacrifice himself.
It's gotta be me. You saw what those stones did to Thanos. They almost killed him. None of you could survive.
How do we know you will?
We don't.
It's also a logical decision.
But the radiation's mostly gamma. It's like, I was made for this.
They know using all of the stones has a damaging effect on the user. But the stones also emit gamma radiation.
She's throwing off interference, radiation. Nothing harmful, low levels of gamma radiation.
And the Hulk's power comes from gamma radiation. So the radiation from the stones should help mitigate against the damage. This also serves to fulfill foreshadowing from the Avengers.
So you're saying that the Hulk, the other guy, saved my life? It's a nice sentiment. Saved it for what?
I guess we'll find out.
It's a shame that Hulk's character no longer supports this idea. Can you really imagine this guy saving someone's life for a greater purpose?
Go again.
Despite the renewed focus on helping others, Endgame still makes questionable decisions with Hulk's character. Again, he's made the butt of several jokes.
Time travel! What?
The slightest mistake and you could have killed Scott. Why is this your reaction?
First time.
However, things aren't as bad as Ragnarok, or even Infinity War. A lot of the jokes with Hulk work with his character rather than against it, like when he teases Scott about getting a picture with the kids. It's a lighthearted moment, no one's life is in danger, and it's just some innocent teasing. Even some jokes with past Hulk work great.
Maximum occupancy has been reached.
Take the stairs.
Yes.
Take the stairs. Hate the stairs. So many stairs!
They don't need to sacrifice or belittle Hulk's character to make these gags. Actually, they work because he's in character. There are several moments meant to make Smart Hulk seem intelligent, except it does the opposite. When he explains time travel to the others, we get this exchange.
We get the stones before Thanos gets them. Thanos doesn't have the stones.
That's not how it works.
Well, that's what I heard.
Wait, but who? Who told you that?
Basically, any movie that deals with time travel.
Die Hard?
I don't know why everyone believes that, but that isn't true.
Apparently, the writers and directors talk to actual physicists about time travel.
His explanation is essentially what we were told by genuine quantum physicists brought into the writer's room to explain time travel to us.
Of course, you talk to physicists. There's 10 different theories about what time travel could be.
Our original approach to this, and we met with a few physicists to talk about it, because there's 100 theories about how it could potentially work.
If there are so many theories on how time travel could work, why would Hulk assume one is correct? He's admittedly not an expert.
The whole time travel do-over? Yeah, guys, it's outside of my area of expertise.
He even goes so far as to say,
I have no idea when we're talking about time travel here. Either it's all a joke or none of it is.
make up your mind. Does he know how time travel works, or doesn't he? And even if he definitively understood it, how could he not know how movies have influenced people's perceptions of the concept? Smart Hulk also gets hit with the same stupid stick as everybody else when devising the time heist. Their whole plan is overly complicated and unnecessary. They could have just grabbed all the stones at the garden, or even in Wakanda. And their Pym particle shortage is nonsense. As the movie demonstrates later, they have an infinite access to the substance. There are so many options and solutions they ignore for the sake of creating an exciting plot. But what I find really damaging to Smart Hulk's intelligence is his response to this line from Cap during the movie's climax.
Get those stones as far away as possible! No! We need to get them back where they came from.
Yeah, but not right now. The smartest thing to do is to get the stones as far from Thanos as possible. Then once he's defeated, you can return them at your leisure. That's basically what ends up happening anyway. The van is destroyed, so they rebuild the time machine and Cap returns them at a later date. There's no need to rush and return them right away, especially without a clearly thought out plan. This is one of the most idiotic things Smart Hulk has said, and it leads to so much bullshit that could have been avoided. If the gauntlet was removed from the battle, Thanos never would have gotten so close to the Snap 2.0, and Tony wouldn't have been forced to use the stones. In a way, Hulk is responsible for his death, and that sucks. One of the Hulk's important plot lines left open since Age of Ultron is the romance between Bruce and Natasha. Even greater importance was placed on it in Ragnarok. Bruce was only able to regain control after 2 years due to seeing Natasha's message. By the start of Infinity War, it's been over 2 years since they last spoke, so the reunion should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm back.
Hi, Bruce.
Nat. This is awkward.
And that's all we get. Throughout the rest of Infinity War, there isn't any interaction at all between them.
And here we have just a taste of a reunion.
The movie's moving too fast for love.
Yeah.
There's the indication that there wasn't enough screen time to flesh out their romance.
We tried versions where we got a lot of people in their daily lives catching up on people, and this movie couldn't support that.
Thanos is moving too fast.
Yeah.
Relentless pacing, viscera. Yeah.
But was it really too much to ask for? Some conclusion to this thread that's been hanging for 2 years?
There's always been this unfulfilled love or tension between the Hulk and Black Widow. Will we ever see that romance culminate?
That doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Like those things never do. Either it's requited or unrequited, but it never goes away. You'll see more of that.
Stop fucking lying.
What about Endgame? Is there any follow-up to the relationship there? Kind of. There's one line that hints at their prior relationship.
Well, you pulled this off. I remember a time when that seemed pretty impossible, too.
And the movie focuses on Smart Hulk when the characters react to losing Natasha.
Clint, where's Nat? She's not coming back. We have to make it worth it.
And he even tries to bring her back with the gauntlet.
You know, I tried. When I had the gauntlet, the stones, I really tried to bring her back.
But there's no indication that they had even a single conversation about the relationship since Age of Ultron. Bruce never clarifies that he wanted to run off with her, and that it was Hulk's decision to leave. Bruce has every reason to pick up where they left off, especially now that he's figured out how to not be a danger to anyone. On the flip side, you might argue Natasha no longer wants to be with Bruce, perhaps because of how radically different of a person he's become. But we can't know that. There isn't a single line of dialogue to express this. There's just nothing. The movies acknowledge that their romance was something that existed, yet they aren't willing to make any definitive statements about it. What is it with Bruce and love interests? Endgame is the culmination of 22 movies, and is a celebration of everything built off of Phase 1 of the MCU. As a result, there are many moments meant to pay tribute to the first Avengers film, and the characters that made that movie possible. However, Endgame has the annoying habit of excluding Hulk. For example, after Thanos attacks Avengers' compound, everyone is separated into little groups. Conveniently, the original solo movie Avengers, the heroes that comprised Phase 1 of the MCU, wind up together. They face Thanos, and the fight includes multiple callbacks to previous movies.
Power at 400% capacity.
How about that?
Come on, Cap.
This demonstrates how these characters have grown and become a well-functioning team. Except Hulk's missing. He doesn't get to take part. There are no callbacks to previous Hulk moments, and he doesn't get to demonstrate the growth of his character or his relationship with his teammates. The writers could have easily had Hulk end up with the other three after the explosion, but they chose not to. Why? Another instance is during Tony's death. We get to see, even if briefly, the reaction of everyone who was especially close to Tony. Except Hulk's missing. Tony and Bruce had a really close relationship in the Avengers and Age of Ultron, and Tony had a large impact on Bruce's growth as a character.
I've got a cluster of shrapnel trying every second to crawl its way into my heart. This stops it. It's part of me now. It's a terrible privilege.
But you can control it.
Because I learned how.
It's different.
I read all about your accident. That much gamma exposure should have killed you.
So you're saying that the Hulk saved my life? Saved it for what?
I guess we'll find out.
Why is he left out of such a significant moment? In an extended version of this scene, Hawkeye takes a knee out of respect. This encourages others to do the same until characters from all across the MCU are taking part, even those who don't know Tony personally. And in the last few seconds, just as the scene fades to black, you can barely make out Smart Hulk in the corner. What the fuck?
Like, Hulk kind of disappears.
He doesn't have a huge role in the action after that.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people who don't.
Yeah. And that list of characters doesn't include the original Avengers, given that the movie is largely centered around concluding their stories.
There's a reason it's called Endgame. It is the end. It's the end of the story for the original Avengers.
Natasha is absent, but only because her story was concluded in a previous scene. Hulk's gone too, but for no clear reason.
Was there more that just ended up getting cut?
There was a couple beats. I mean, one, his arm is all fucked up.
So? Just because he's injured doesn't mean Hulk isn't going to do everything he can to help. His injury doesn't preclude him from being involved in significant moments. The reason this is a problem is that it contributes to this lackluster send-off for Hulk. Sure, we're going to see him again, but as the writers and directors have reiterated over and over again, this is meant to be a conclusion for the original 6 Avengers.
Endgame is the concluding chapter for most of our OG Avengers.
This one is wrapping up, 21 movies, and, the 6 original Avengers, their story arc is coming to completion in this. And if you've been following along with the Marvel Universe for the last 10 years, this is it. This is the big ending. This is the final chapter of the book.
Our job on this movie, our goal was to bring a closure to this long journey that we've all been on since the very first Iron Man movie more than 10 years ago now, and really wrap up the story of the original 6 Avengers. There's always new stories to tell for sure, but this was the first Marvel movie that we made where we were not thinking about the future at all. We were only thinking about how do we complete the journey of these 6 main Avengers and bring a sense of closure to this journey that they've had.
As an ending, it's complicated. I mean, we're wrapping up the original 6 Avengers story.
What were the biggest challenges in landing on that resolution that you guys ultimately found?
It was trying to end the arcs of 6 Avengers, or at least give them really nice concluding moments.
Hulk gets left out of his own concluding chapter, as if he wasn't an integral part of Phase 1 or of the Avengers. Does Infinity War and Endgame get Hulk back on track? Yes and no. They course correct his characterization, if only ever so slightly. However, some of the effects of Ragnarok's jokification remain. Infinity War and Endgame even build off of some of that movie's bullshittery, cementing the damage done to his character. But besides, Infinity War and Endgame have unique problems of their own. There seems to be a theme with Hulk in these movies. He consistently got shafted in favor of supporting other aspects of the story. His storyline was kept thin to save on screen time.
Part of the challenge and part of the pleasure of this giant task of these 2 movies is how do you tell everything you need to tell, weave it together, and keep it light enough so that you're not bogging down all the time. A big sequence where you see these 2 guys achieve union takes time, takes attention away from the story. A really funny scene where the Hulk is eating pancakes, fast, funny, and it is a scene I haven't seen in a superhero movie before.
His transformation into Smart Hulk was cut to keep a consistent tone.
He achieved union with the Hulk,
basically
while inside the Hulk buster.
That's right, that's how he beat...
burst out and kicked Cull Obsidian's ass. And it didn't work. It was completely the wrong tone for that moment in the movie. It was like this victory when we were headed toward a crushing defeat, and it was tone deaf.
The movie did not want it.
We tried it a couple different ways, and it was an up right when you needed the gradual sense of doom to be increasing, and it was like we kicked off a different movie right at the end of that one.
His relationship with Natasha wasn't explored, so the movies could focus on other elements.
Are you guys talking about romantic pairings at any point? I mean, people have wondered whatever happened to Bruce and Natasha.
In Infinity War, when they see each other for the first time, there's a bit of a look, and I think we certainly even shot a longer scene of them talking about how he had gone away, basically done Ragnarok and come back, and they hadn't. But anything that was not about stones, Thanos, we're in trouble, this propulsive narrative got jettisoned.
His participation in the 3rd act was minimized to give other characters the spotlight.
Like Hulk kind of disappears.
After he comes out of the...
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Like, was there more that just ended up getting cut?
He doesn't have story left. Once everyone comes back, we've spent 2 hours with this group. This is the only time you're going to see Black Panther or Spider-Man do anything, or anybody like that. What we sort of said, we're going to try to put as much of that part of the story on characters who just got back.
And also, in order to put the desperation on Tony at the end so that he does what he does, you have to take some people who could have extended the fight away. Hulk's got to be across the field. Doctor Strange has to be holding up the Hudson River.
He's made an idiot to further the plot.
Get those stones as far away as possible! No! We need to get them back where they came from. Stupid! You're so stupid!
Gamora and Natasha may have been sacrificed for the Soul Stone, but Hulk was sacrificed for the plot. Next time, I'll look at She-Hulk to see what fresh hell hath been wrought upon our favorite Jade Giant.